Greetings everyone. Presents a country seminar by Halima Farouk and Leslie Fuller for the course Global Business Perspectives, Fall 2016 with Professor Dr. Caldas.
Looking and searching around the globe for a country perfect for business needs? Look no further. Today we take you to a country located overseas from the United States called Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, or better known as just Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia is located east of Iran and is surrounded by the Persian Gulf, Red Sea, and Gulf of Aden.
Saudi Arabia has a monarchy government with the current king Abdullah bin Salman. Saudi Arabia has a population of 31,500,000. 90% of the population is Arab, and the rest of the 10% are Afro-Asian by race. By religion, 100% of the population is Muslim. 90% of the Muslims are Sunni, while the rest of the 10% are Shia. To gain a better understanding of Saudi Arabia as a location to do business, let's look at Saudi Arabia through the PESTEL model.
The first aspect of PESTEL is political. In the political, we can look at the Corruption Perception Index, which ranks from 0 to 100, 100 being no corruption. Saudi Arabia ranks number 49, while the U.S. ranks number 16 out of 165 countries in 2015. The index has been increasing for Saudi Arabia as King Salman has improved the trust among the people and appointed well-respected leaders for key positions within the government. Next, we can look at the rule of law, which ranges from negative 2.5 to 2.5, with 2.5 being the strongest. Rule of law describes the extent to which agents have confidence in and abide by the rules of society. Saudi Arabia has consistently ranked lower than the U.S., but Saudi Arabia is starting to show signs of positive changes in this category. After hitting an almost all-time low in 2011, they have started consistently trending in a more positive direction. We can attribute that to leadership changes and also a change in defense minister and deputy prince.
Economic. Let's start with the currency exchange rate. Saudi Arabia set a peg to the US dollar so that the currency would not see much volatility. Ever since the peg, the currency has remained at 3.75 to the US dollar. This has helped with the volatility in the exchange market from changes in the oil and commodities market. Next, we'll go to imports and exports. Saudi Arabia consistently has a larger percentage of GDP than the United States spent on imports and exports. This is a positive sign as there consistently remains a demand for Saudi Arabian goods.
Saudi, you're a Saudi, she is a Saudi means you belong to that family.
We can also attribute part of this measure to oil. Imports. Cars and refined petroleum account for 72% of Saudi Arabia's top imports. Modes of transportation and packaged medicines round out the other three in almost equal proportions. Petroleum and oil is a large market in Saudi Arabia, and they depend on that market for significant economic activity. Exports. Crude petroleum accounts for 84% of the top export activity. Saudi Arabia is rich in oil reserves and is one of the top producers in the world. Other polymers and alcohols round out the top 5 exports. This would be an attractive place for oil companies and other manufacturing industries to purchase raw materials for chemical productions. Economic Freedom Index. The index spans from 0 to 100. The higher the score, the more economic freedom a country is said to have. The United States has a higher economic freedom index than Saudi Arabia currently, but the index for Saudi Arabia has been trending upward. As of 2016, Saudi Arabia ranks number 80 out of 176, while the United States ranks number 11. Economic growth. Saudi Arabia has seen a steady amount of economic growth since 2005. 2008 and 2009 were negative in economic growth for Saudi Arabia due to the Great Recession that greatly affected the oil market. Since the recovery from the recession, Saudi Arabia has begun to close the gap with the United States. By 2015, the United States only had approximately 1 percentage point more economic growth than Saudi Arabia. Inflation. Saudi Arabia has not seen volatility in inflation over the past 10 years due to the Great Recession. Their dollar is pegged to the US dollar, and with the oil market being volatile as well, this has caused varying inflation rates between 2008 and 2010. Since Since the recovery from the recession, Saudi Arabia has seen steady inflation rates and no deflation, unlike the United States. Oil revenue. Saudi Arabia's oil revenue hit a high in 2008. After the recession, the oil revenue percentage dropped off as they were a victim of the volatility in the market. Saudi Arabia continues to focus heavily on the oil market, but are now trying to diversify after the large hit between 2008 and 2009. Foreign direct investment. Saudi Arabia saw a huge spike in foreign direct investment in 2008 and 2009 due to the Great Recession. In 2013, they dropped below the United States but regained position in 2014. As oil stabilizes, we could expect more direct investment as well as more positive relationships with the United States. Inward FDI. The top 5 sources of inward FDI are Kuwait, France, Japan, United Arab Emirates, and China. Kuwait and the United Arab Emirates are also players in the oil market. GDP per capita PPP. Saudi Arabia remains very close to the United States in the GDP per capita PPP measures. This is due to the wealth with the oil market and steady standard of living. Next is the social aspect. We'll start with Hofstede culture variable. Howard is Saudi Arabia has a value of 95 and the United States has a value of 40. This means that Saudi Arabia has a clear hierarchy that is clearly established and executed. People do not question the people in power. Individualism. Saudi Arabia has a value of 25 and the United States has a value of 91. Saudi Arabia tends to be more of a collectivist society. Masculinity. Saudi Arabia has a value of 60 and the United States has a value of 62. Both Saudi Arabia and the United States tend to be more masculine societies. This means they tend to value achievement and more assertive behavior. Uncertainty avoidance. Saudi Arabia has a value of 90 and the United States has a value of 46. Saudi Arabia is much higher than the United States, meaning it has a very low tolerance for uncertainty. Long-term orientation. Saudi Arabia has a value of 36 and the United States has a value of 26. This score indicates that Saudi Arabia values traditions and steadfastness. Indulgence. Saudi Arabia has a value of 52 and the United States has a value of 68. Saudi Arabia tends to have balance between indulgence and restraint. There were no Trumpinaires variables available for Saudi Arabia. Next, we'll go to the Human Development Index. Saudi Arabia has made great strides in improving the human development of the people. The index ranks from 0 to 1. Saudi Arabia has trailed the United States but has seen great increases between 2010 and 2014. Saudi Arabia ranked number 39 out of 185 in 2014. This high ranking is due to a good standard of living with the oil revenue, leadership changes, and a focus on education. Next, for education. Which people discussed in technological.
The next aspect is technological. For technological, we can look at the R&D expenditures, which encompasses basic research, applied research, and experimental development, as well as capital expenditures undertaken. Saudi Arabia has been very low in R&D expenditures, and this presents an opportunity for business to capitalize on first-mover advantages in this area, while the U.S. ranks very high. Next, we can look at the Innovation Index. The Innovation Index ranks from 0 to 100 and is based on 2 sub-pillars, which is mostly based on human capital and research, market sophistication, technology, creative outputs. Saudi Arabia ranked number 49 out of 128 countries in 2016. For what little amount Saudi Arabia spends on R&D, their Innovation Index score is pretty good. If more money could be spent on innovation, this index ranking could rise quickly. Next, we can look at the patent applications. Saudi Arabia ranks number 40 out of 106 countries in 2014 for the number of patent applications filed, while the United States ranked number 2 out of 106. The United States has constantly been ahead of Saudi Arabia in patent applications. Saudi Arabia could contribute more money, but the oil industry is very established and their main focus. With the leadership change, we could see more focus on innovation. We can look at education. The literacy of total population is 94.70% are educated and 5.30% are uneducated, with male literacy being 91.10% and female literacy being 97%. We can look at the environmental aspect of the PESTEL model, which includes the Environmental Performance Index. Saudi Arabia is below the United States due to not focusing on their energy usage and finding cleaner sources for energy. Saudi Arabia presents a great place for investment for business that are in this space of the market, as they can take advantage of their first mover and early adopter advantages. The CO2 emissions per capita has seen an increase in Saudi Arabia. It was in line with the United States until the United States saw a decline beginning in 2008. Saudi Arabia will have to face rising pressure in the future to control emissions and find clean energy sources. The GDP per unit of energy is the PPP GDP per kilogram of oil equivalent to energy use. Saudi Arabia is pretty much even with the United States in this category. This shows an increasing trend as well as in both countries. This shows that business opportunities with cleaner energy could arise in Saudi Arabia as they have in the U.S.
For the next section on the legal aspect, we can see here the chart on Saudi Arabian's court systems. As you can see, it can be a fairly complex model and has two different routes to the very top. Next, we will go to cost of starting a business. The cost of starting a business have decreased dramatically. This is due to a leadership change with the introduction of King Salman and a decrease in a protectionist nature. This is a great opportunity for businesses looking for a foreign country to have operations in.
Conclusively, we can look at the SWOT analysis, which can be a viable tool to learning about the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in the Saudi Arabia. The strengths of Saudi Arabia include the economy is growing within the space of political economy and business diversification. It is also a very well-known city for its holy cities Mecca and Medina that bring pilgrims to the country per annum. It also allows free movement of trade and repair between countries. Saudi Arabia's roads and railroads and ports are vital as transporting freight and materials. Weaknesses include the rial is declining against the US dollar. There is also political unrest surrounding the east, and an uprising in Republic of Tunisia and Egypt causing Arab awakening. The opportunities include King Abdullah Aziz enacting laws for foreign trade, education system, and Saudi Arabia is 22nd largest merchandise export to the United States. Threats include different countries in the globe conjointly terrorist attack and Asian countries threat of violence for radical spiritual leaders. Here are the references for our video. We hope you enjoyed our presentation and you visit Saudi Arabia soon.